If your life isn't changing, it's not because you lack potential, it's because discipline hasn't become your lifestyle yet. Let me begin with a truth that only a few people ever understand. Your life changes the moment discipline stops being something you try and becomes something you live. Not a rule, not a task, not a 30-day challenge, a lifestyle. Most people fail not because they're weak, but because their discipline is temporary. It comes and goes like weather. One good day, one bad week, one burst of motivation, and then silence. But the people who build extraordinary lives, wealth, health, purpose, they treat discipline like oxygen. It is not optional. It is the daily requirement that shapes their destiny. If you stay with me until the end of this speech, I promise you 3 things. You'll understand why discipline is the foundation of every breakthrough. You'll learn how to turn it into a long-term lifestyle, not a short-term effort. And you'll walk away with a practical formula that can transform your life starting today. Stay with me. This next part may be the turning point you've been waiting for. Discipline is not punishment. It's the bridge between intentions and achievement. That idea sounds simple, but it carries more power than most people ever realize. People often treat discipline as something harsh, restrictive, or limiting. They imagine it as a set of rules designed to take away comfort or pleasure. But discipline, in its truest form, is the opposite. It isn't there to take something from you. It's there to give you access to a life that would otherwise remain locked behind excuses, delays, and inconsistencies. Discipline is the tool that transforms the invisible into the visible, the imagined into the experienced, the hoped for into the achieved. Think of how most people operate. They have good intentions. They want to get fit. They want to save money. They want to learn a new skill, build a business, elevate their life. Almost everyone wants these things. But intentions alone don't change anything. Intentions without action are like seeds without soil. They hold potential, but they can't grow. What separates the people who turn their intentions into reality from those who remain stuck in the cycle of, oh, one day, is discipline. The willingness to follow through when the excitement fades, when the mood shifts, and when comfort whispers its tempting message. Discipline is the great equalizer. Talent matters, but talent without discipline becomes wasted potential. Intelligence is valuable, but even brilliance collapses without consistent effort. Dreams are wonderful, but dreams without discipline remain fantasies. Discipline is what stands in the gap between desire and accomplishment. It forms the foundation of everything meaningful you will ever build, because without it, even the strongest desire cannot withstand the smallest obstacle. People often misunderstand discipline because they focus on what it requires rather than what it produces. Discipline might ask you to wake up earlier, to commit to routines, to resist distractions, to sacrifice temporary pleasure. But what does it give in return? It gives confidence because you begin to trust yourself. It gives momentum because consistency creates progress. It gives clarity because structured action removes confusion. It gives results because results are the natural consequence of repeated effort. When people say discipline is punishment, it's because they're only looking at the front door. They aren't paying attention to the abundance that waits on the other side. To understand discipline as a bridge, imagine 2 sides of a river. On one side is where you are right now, your current habits, your current lifestyle, your current outcomes. On the other side is the life you want, stronger, healthier, wealthier, more focused, more fulfilled. Between those 2 sides lies a gap, and that gap cannot be crossed through wishes. It cannot be crossed through motivation alone. It cannot be crossed by waiting for the right moment or the perfect opportunity. The only way across is through the daily planks of discipline, small repeated actions done, even when you don't feel like doing them. Every time you practice discipline, you lay down another plank. When you choose the healthy meal instead of the easy snack, you lay a plank. When you save instead of spending impulsively, you lay a plank. When you study instead of scrolling, you lay a plank. When you choose effort over excuses, you lay a plank. Individually, each plank may seem small, but over time, these planks connect your present to your potential. Eventually, you look back and realize you've built a solid path to a life that once felt distant. Discipline also strengthens something inside you that motivation alone never can: identity. Because every act of discipline is a vote for the person you want to become. Every time you follow through, even in a small way, you reinforce a message within your own mind. I am someone who does what needs to be done. That internal identity shift becomes a force of its own. When discipline becomes part of who you are instead of something you occasionally try to practice, your actions begin to align naturally with your goals. You no longer need to fight yourself to stay consistent. Consistency becomes the default. Another important truth is that discipline gives you power over your life. People who lack discipline often feel like life is controlling them. Their emotions push them around, their circumstances overwhelm them, their habits run on autopilot. But discipline changes the balance of power. It makes you the driver rather than the passenger. It gives you the ability to choose your actions instead of reacting to impulses. It gives you control over your time instead of letting time disappear. It gives you the ability to direct your energy toward what matters instead of scattering it in every direction. Discipline also teaches you something that few people learn: the difference between what is easy and what is valuable. The easy path rarely leads to growth, strength, or achievement. The valuable path rarely feels easy at the beginning. Discipline trains your mind to choose growth over comfort, purpose over distraction, consistency over chaos. And once you develop that ability, you begin to notice something extraordinary. What once felt difficult starts to feel natural. Actions that used to require effort become habits. Choices that once felt uncomfortable become familiar. Behaviors that once demanded discipline eventually require none because they become part of your lifestyle. But there is another layer to discipline that many overlook. It protects you from regret. Without discipline, you pay a price. The price of missed opportunities, wasted years, and unfulfilled potential. With discipline, you pay a different price. The price of effort, consistency, and self-control. One is painful at the end. The other is only uncomfortable at the beginning. Discipline asks for temporary discomfort, but saves you from long-term disappointment. It is the shield that prevents you from looking back, wishing you had started sooner. Discipline is not punishment. It is preparation. It prepares you for challenges, because consistency builds resilience. It prepares you for success, because habits create readiness. It prepares you for opportunities, because effort builds capability. Every disciplined action pushes you forward, even if you can't yet see the progress. And one day, the world will call you lucky, without realizing how many days of discipline you practiced when no one was watching. Discipline is the bridge between what you intend to do and what you actually accomplish. It is the force that turns plans into progress, dreams into reality, and potential into performance. It is the path you choose every day, even in the smallest of ways, that determines the quality of the life you build. Your habits shape your future. The moment discipline becomes natural, success becomes automatic. This idea reveals one of the most powerful truths about human behavior. The life you live today is a direct reflection of the habits you repeated yesterday, and the life you will live tomorrow will be shaped by the habits you practice today. People often search for shortcuts, secrets, or sudden breakthroughs, but real transformation doesn't come from a single moment of inspiration. It comes from the quiet, consistent patterns that influence what you think, how you behave, and how you respond to life's challenges. Habits are the invisible architecture of your destiny. They guide your decisions long before you consciously make them. Each habit you build becomes a signal to your mind about the kind of person you are becoming. If you practice habits of discipline, you become stronger. If you practice habits of avoidance, you become weaker. If you practice habits of learning, you become wiser. If you practice habits of procrastination, your potential shrinks. Habits shape your identity, and identity shapes your future. People often think they need to change their lives first, but the truth is the opposite. Change your habits, and your habits will change your life. When discipline becomes natural, Your habits no longer require intense effort to maintain. They become part of your rhythm, woven into your daily life the same way breathing or walking is. In the beginning, discipline feels demanding. You must push yourself to develop the routines that matter. You must resist distractions, fight old patterns, and commit even when it feels uncomfortable. But through repetition, something remarkable happens. What once required effort becomes effortless. What once demanded willpower becomes automatic. And when your habits become automatic, your success no longer depends on motivation. It depends on your lifestyle. That transition from effort to automation is where transformation truly begins. You no longer wake up debating whether to take the right action. You simply take it. You no longer question whether to show up. You show up by default. Your mind becomes trained, conditioned, and aligned with your goals. The friction disappears. The internal resistance fades. You find yourself improving not because you force yourself every day, but because you built a system that moves you forward, even on days when you feel tired or unmotivated. Habits act like anchors. They keep you steady in moments when emotions try to pull you off course. A disciplined habit doesn't ask how you feel, it simply directs your action. And that stability is what allows you to build long-term success. Most people live according to their feelings. If they feel motivated, they act. If they feel discouraged, they stop. But those who build strong habits live according to their commitments. Their feelings may shift, but their actions remain steady. That steadiness is what separates average results from extraordinary achievements. You can see this principle in every area of life. In health, the person who exercises daily, even for a short time, eventually becomes fit because the habit becomes part of who they are. They don't negotiate with themselves, they simply act. In finances, the person who saves or invests regularly, even small amounts, eventually builds wealth because the habit compounds over time. In learning, the person who reads or studies consistently expands their knowledge far beyond the person who learns only when they feel inspired. Success in any domain becomes predictable when the right habits take root. Habits also influence the type of thoughts you think. A person who practices gratitude daily becomes more optimistic. A person who practices awareness becomes more focused. A person who practices planning becomes more structured. A person who practices self-control becomes mentally stronger. The habit doesn't just shape the action, it shapes the mind behind the action. This is why disciplined people often appear calm, clear-minded, and confident. Their habits have conditioned their thinking to align with growth rather than chaos. Your habits determine your standards as well. Once discipline becomes natural, you stop accepting behaviors that once held you back. You stop tolerating your own excuses. You stop lowering the bar for yourself. Your standard of effort rises. Your standard of consistency rises. Your standard of focus rises. And as your standards rise, so do your results. People who achieve lasting success don't live by low standards. They build daily habits that keep them aligned with high standards, whether they feel motivated or not. There is also a powerful ripple effect that habits create. One strong habit supports another. When you build discipline in one area, waking up early, eating better, saving money, reading daily, it creates momentum that spreads to other areas of your life. Success rarely stays isolated. A disciplined morning improves your productivity. A disciplined financial habit improves your future stability. A disciplined learning habit improves your decision making. Each habit strengthens the environment in which the next habit can grow. The positive patterns multiply, and so does the impact. But the opposite is also true. Poor habits create downward spirals. One habit of avoidance leads to another. Neglect in one area spills into others. A lack of discipline in one part of life weakens your confidence and affects the choices you make elsewhere. This is why changing even a single habit can shift the direction of your entire future. One habit can serve as a foundation for new behaviors. One habit can restore your belief in yourself. One habit can disrupt the negative momentum that has been holding you back. The moment discipline becomes natural, you no longer waste energy fighting with yourself. You stop debating between the right and wrong choice. You stop negotiating shortcuts. You stop searching for motivation every day just to start. You move forward because of who you have become, not because of how you feel in the moment. Habits take the complexity out of progress. They simplify your path. They give structure to your growth. They turn random effort into consistent advancement. Over time, your habits become the silent architects of your destiny. They influence your opportunities, your relationships, your mindset, your income, your health, your confidence, and your level of success. People often search for dramatic transformations, but the truth is that your habits are shaping your future quietly, daily, and without applause. The way you think today, the decisions you make today, the actions you take today, these are the building blocks of the life you are creating. When you understand this, you stop waiting for big changes and start making small ones consistently. You stop hoping for a better future and start building one through your routines. You stop relying on motivation and start relying on systems. And ultimately, you begin to realize that success is not something you chase. It becomes something you attract through who you repeatedly are. Your habits are writing the story of your future long before the world reads it. Small daily improvements, repeated consistently, create massive long-term transformation. This principle may sound simple, almost too simple for the scale of change people hope to achieve, but it holds one of the deepest truths about human progress. Most people overestimate what they can accomplish in a short burst of effort and underestimate what becomes possible when they commit to small steps taken every single day. They chase dramatic overnight changes, huge leaps, grand breakthroughs, and when those don't arrive quickly, they lose momentum. What they fail to realize is that long-term success is rarely built on intensity. It's built on consistency. The power of small daily improvements lies in their compounding effect. Just like money grows through compound interest, habits and skills grow through compound effort. A tiny improvement may look insignificant in the moment. Reading a few pages doesn't feel life-changing. Saving a small amount of money doesn't feel meaningful. Walking for 10 minutes doesn't feel transformative. Practicing a new skill for a short time feels barely noticeable. But when these actions are repeated daily, they begin to compound. Each small improvement builds on the previous one. And as days turn into weeks and weeks turn into months, something remarkable happens. The change that once felt invisible becomes undeniable. Most people never experience this transformation because they underestimate the value of small steps. They want big rewards quickly, so they either start too aggressively or quit too soon. They overlook the quiet force of consistency. But every meaningful achievement you admire, every author, every athlete, every leader, every expert, reach their peak through small improvements practiced relentlessly over time. Behind every success story is a trail of tiny efforts that accumulated into mastery. Small daily improvements also remove the intimidation that often blocks people from getting started. When change feels too large, too overwhelming, or too distant, people procrastinate. But when the goal is reduced to something manageable, a 1% improvement today, one simple action, one small step, then progress becomes accessible. The mind no longer sees the journey as impossible. It sees it as something it can begin right now. And beginning is the hardest part for most people. There is another advantage to small daily improvements. They strengthen discipline without requiring extreme willpower. Big changes demand big energy, and when motivation fades, so does the effort. But small steps can be sustained even on difficult days. They allow you to stay connected to your goals without burning out. And when you remain consistent, even with small actions, you build internal trust in yourself. You develop the identity of someone who follows through. That identity becomes a powerful force, making future improvements easier because you begin to see yourself as the type of person who grows daily. Consistency also reveals something profound about progress. It is rarely linear. Some days you will make noticeable strides. Other days the improvement feels invisible. Sometimes you feel like you're moving forward. Other times it seems like nothing is happening at all. But underneath the surface, every small daily improvement is reshaping your habits, strengthening your skills, sharpening your mindset. Change is happening even when you cannot see it. The people who experience transformation are the ones who keep going long enough to feel the results catch up with the effort. Think of a tree growing underground. Before it breaks the surface, roots are expanding quietly, invisibly. If someone judged the tree too early, they might assume nothing is happening. But growth is occurring where the eye cannot see. In the same way, small improvements build the roots of your future success. They prepare you internally before the external results appear. This is why many people quit right before they start seeing change. They mistake slow progress for no progress. But consistency ensures that the roots become strong enough to support the growth that eventually breaks into view. Small daily improvements also protect you from the paralysis of perfection. When the action is small, the pressure is small. You don't feel the need to perform perfectly. You simply need to show up, and showing up daily creates momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence fuels action, and action drives progress. This cycle becomes a powerful engine that moves you forward, even without dramatic bursts of motivation. One of the hidden strengths of small improvements is their ability to redefine your relationship with effort. When you practice something daily, it becomes part of your rhythm. What once felt difficult becomes normal. What felt time-consuming becomes quick. What needed discipline eventually becomes automatic. This shift from effortful to effortless is one of the greatest gifts of consistency. It means you no longer need to force yourself to grow. Growth becomes the natural result of your habits. Another truth is that small improvements create a balance that makes your life sustainable. If you try to overhaul your entire life at once, you create stress, burnout, and frustration. You spend all your energy in one burst and then crash. But when you improve gradually, you preserve your energy, you build stability, you create long-lasting habits that don't collapse under pressure. And over time, these small habits form the structure of a stronger, more resilient life. Small improvements also expose you to opportunities you would never experience otherwise. The person who reads daily becomes prepared for conversations, decisions, and possibilities that would have passed them by. The person who exercises daily gains energy that opens doors to new activities. The person who saves daily gains financial options that others never have. The person who practices a skill daily becomes ready for opportunities that require competence. Consistency not only creates growth, it creates readiness. Daily improvements also transform the way you see yourself. Every time you choose growth, even in a small way, you send a message to your mind about who you are becoming. You begin to identify as someone who gets better, someone who invests in themselves, someone who moves forward. That identity becomes the foundation of your future. Because once you truly believe you are someone who improves daily, your actions will naturally align with that belief. Small improvements create a rise in self-respect. You begin to trust yourself. You stop breaking promises to your own potential. You stop feeling stuck or overwhelmed because you know you are moving forward. Even if it's slow, there is a quiet pride that comes with consistency, an inner strength that grows as you honor your commitment to progress. Over time, these small improvements begin to add up in ways that are impossible to ignore. Your mindset sharpens. Your habits strengthen. Your skill level rises. Your confidence expands. Your results begin to reflect the hundreds of small decisions you've been making daily. What seemed impossible at the beginning becomes achievable. What felt overwhelming becomes manageable. What once required effort becomes natural. This is the power of small daily improvements practiced with unwavering consistency.